Welcome to my presentation on the feasibility analysis model for a client. Let's first go through the main points. My client has an apartment which has 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom with a 1 lock-up garage. It's in a safe and convenient area, which is Linwood Manor. This apartment has a property value currently of 920,000 Rand. We will be analyzing a planning horizon for 5 years on how this can change due to different options. Then we will find the NPV value that will give the greatest return, and also we will select the option in terms of convenience and reliability. There are a few things we need to clarify before we consider the options, the stove being one of them. The stove could be fixed today or could be fixed sometime in the next 2 years. However, there is a cost escalation of 1.2% every month. As seen from the table here, the cost will have to be taken out as an expense. In this case, I have chosen the refinance options, which I will explain later on in my presentation. When we take out this cost, the interest will be paid much more than what it would initially be if we would make this cost expense today. Therefore, I've come to the conclusion that I will use the expense of today to fix the stove. Next, we will look at the laminated floors. We will receive 800 Rand per month, and then we can determine the total income that we will get every year. However, there will be an initial expense of 35,000 Rand to be paid. When we look at the NPV values, we see that it will not, in fact, return the amount that we were hoping for. Therefore, moving onwards, we choose not to implement the laminated floors in any of the options. I have made an information sheet that includes all the data listed in the report. I have also included different internet sources that gave me the uncertainties and the assumptions that I needed to make for the different options. Firstly, we will look at the inflation rate that I've chosen is 7%, as well as the increase in property that is 6.32% based on the selling price that we were given and the base cost. I was able to then project the prices in the next 5 years. There are also renovation costs that will need to take place for various options, and there are also different costs. There's the flooring and stove that was already discussed, as well as the short-term rental and rental income. Then we have an income tax that will be used by SARS tax bracket, and this will be used in all the different options. I also have operating costs in which the levies and rates and tax will be applied. Here I've made different graphs for the different trends. This is based on past performance, and I have made a trend line in order to project the next few years' amounts. Option 1. Renting out the unfinished apartment on a year-to-year basis using the services of a rental agent. First, we calculated the rental income. This was done by looking at the past 4 years and seeing that there was actually a 5% increase every single year. I've now used a 5% increase for the next 5 years. I've also assumed that the rent will only start in 2019. This is because renovations will have to take place in the meantime. Now, total operating costs, we will have our levies, our rates and tax, our agent commission, routine maintenance and contingencies that will be 10% of all the expenses calculated. There will also be upfront costs that will have to be paid today in order for the renovations to be done. Option 1 has a 22,000 Rand upfront expense. The 3 different financing options were compared, and the best one was refinance. The loan was identified, in which the annual payments were calculated as well as the interest. The balance after the 5th payment was also identified. After the 5 years, the property will need to be sold. Here, the selling price is given, as well as the agent fee, transfer costs, and capital gains tax. Then the total property profit will be given in the table to follow. Option 1's cash flow. The operating income includes her salary as well as her rental income. The expenses are listed as well as the upfront costs. The leftover bond also has to be paid off. The property value that we calculated in terms of profit, and the loans that will have to be also paid off every year. Then the before tax cash flow was calculated, summing all of the previous ones together, and the interest was also calculated as before. The taxable income includes the operating income minus the interest. Then the tax was calculated using the SARS bracket, and the after-tax cash flow was the before-tax cash flow minus the tax to get your after-tax cash flow, in which my MAR was 11% and a tax rate of 41%. The NPV value amounted to this one. Option 2. Renting out the furnished apartment on a short-term basis through either Airbnb or the Lacaslav platform. Here I compared different factors and I came to the conclusion that Airbnb was the platform to go with because of the service fee, which is only 3%. I then calculated the amount of rental income is achieved every year according to the occupancy rate in Pretoria, as well as the days, and the average of 547 Rand per night. There's obviously an increase every year due to inflation, and the total operating expenses have also been listed. This will include your water, electricity and cleaning, which was not included before, as well as interior furnishings. After choosing that refinancing was the better option before, we will go with this selection again based on facts. Now the expenses will amount to 472,000 Rand. The annual payment is also being determined, as well as the interest. The balance after the fifth payment has also been identified. Option 2's cash flow is much like option 1's, except the operating income is a salary as well as Airbnb's rental income that you have achieved through renting your property. Depreciation will not be considered in these three options because it will be made up in maintenance and contingency costs. The same procedure applies for option 2, and the NPV value calculated was this value shown. Option 3. Selling the property through an agent and investing in a portfolio of a maximum of 3 unit trusts using the services of a financial advisor. First, when we sell the property, we get 920,000 Rand. We will then have to pay off the mortgage as well as other expenses. However, we won't sell this property immediately today. We expect to sell it in 2 months, as it is a high demand area. So we will also have to take into consideration the refinance cost and the interest on those expenses that we have spent on. Other expenses include the cost of sales agent, the capital gains tax, and then we will be left with a value that we could invest in a unit trust. The financial advisor will then take 3% initially from this value, and then he will determine what type of risk profile the client best suits. In her case, she is moderately conservative, in which she will get 11% annual return. No dividends will be given, and the unit trust will only be withdrawn after 5 years, and tax will be paid also after 5 years. As you can see here, the financial advisor continues to take a fee of 0.5% every year, and then her operating income will be just her salary, and at the end of 5 years it will be her salary plus her total unit trust funds. It will then be taxed, and then we will receive an after-tax cash flow where we will be able to determine the NPV value. In conclusion to our feasibility study, we see that option 1 has a greater NPV value than all the other options, but only slightly higher than option 3. Regarding the effort and attention needed to rent an apartment for 5 years won't be worth the difference. Therefore, she should invest in option 3, as it is relatively safe and gives a great return at the end of a 5-year period. Thank you.